I've just been distracted. I'm ready to talk to Star Maker Bolin, and as we tape here, the Dow Jones average is down 112 points the last 2 hours. That's certainly a great premonition of what it's going to be like to talk to Kenny Bolin. Can we get him on the fucking line here, and let's just go through with this, because I've got to do it, and I'll explain why when we get him on the phone.
We shall do what we must.
Well, good. But before we bring him on, I just want to explain to the Cult of Cornette listeners out there, to even to you, Alice, who has to be burdened by this, that I'm doing this because I was moved by the letter that we got last week from Robert Dickens of Medford, Oregon, and I want to read it again so that if you didn't hear the program last week, everybody understands. Robert wrote, "I'm writing to tell you about my nephew, little Walter so-and-so of Klamath Falls, Oregon. He needs your help. Walter had a tough time in life from the start. He was bullied in school because he was a little slow, but his mother was slow too, so that wasn't his fault. He doesn't have many friends, and being so poor, he can't have any hobbies that cost money. But your show is free and well worth it, too, as far as I'm concerned, Mr. Cornette. I appreciate, once again, the vote of confidence, as we mentioned. But Robert goes on, he listens to you, and he always likes you, except when you yell at Star Maker Bolan. He loves Star Maker Bolan. Well, a couple of weeks ago, little Walter was helping on the family farm, and there was an accident with the machinery. At only 15 years old, Walter will never walk again or start a family. And all he wants is to hear Star Maker Bolan back on your show and you to be nice to him just one time while he lays in his bed at so-and-so hospital and has his artificial parts put on. It's the only thing that will make little Walter smile." And, I put this out on Twitter and asked for emails on it. And as usual, they were split. I retweeted some of them, both positive and negative. This guy is the most polarizing figure we've ever had on the program. But, because of this plea from a member of the Cult of Cornette, I've decided to allow it. So back for this week, welcome him, please, Star Maker Bolan. Kenny, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jimmy? You doing all right, little buddy?
Yeah, I'm good. So you're pleased to be on the program, I take it.
I'm just as happy as hell to be here today, Jimmy, because number one, that letter, oh my God, that just strikes some places in my heart that haven't really ever been touched before. But I sense a little bit of urgency.
Probably got a lot of places that haven't been touched before.
I think you might want to refer to that letter and that you need to be nice to me, as quoted by little Walter.
I'm sorry. Just old habits die hard. I'm sorry.
Well, they better not die hard today, because I'm going to point out what's really going on right here. I can probably begin to count how many letters like this you probably get in a week. It's like Make-A-Wish mail. People wishing me back on the show. People demanding me back on the show. And you had to resort to a poor little defenseless child who's laying limbless in a hospital somewhere, who begs you to put me on the show. That's not exactly the reason you put me on the show. Your ratings have been down ever since the last appearance I've been on here, and I'm going to be nice to you about this.
That is not entirely true.
That's entirely true. You've had guests like Tommy Young, a fucking referee. I had to point that out on the PWR show. They tried to compare me to Tommy Young.
We've had guys like Kevin Sullivan and Paul Orndorff and big stars, Kenny, that have done just as big a numbers as a lot of your shows. So don't try to think that you're just blowing everybody out of the water. Don't try to say that.
No, that is the fact, is that I am blowing everybody out of the water, and no one gets the emails that I get. No one gets the Twitter responses that I get. And it's all your fans. My fans know where I'm at. They know I'm on Facebook. I'm not really so much a Twitter guy. The main Twitter mail I get are from your fans, Jimmy.
You just try to present it like that nobody listens to this program unless you're on it. And as I said, that's not the case, because these big stars that I've had, Jim Ross, et cetera, have done numbers that just as good as your best ones and some better.
Well, what you're saying is just as good. But the fact is, the highest rated 3 shows you've ever had all had me as the featured guest.
No, that's the complete lie. That is the high. No, not the 3 highest rated. No.
Oh, not the 3. Maybe 2? Maybe the 2 highest rated? That's exactly what I thought. You'd rather eat burgers and fried nails than admit how great I am on your show. And it took a little letter from Walt.
2 instances where just something happened strange that a lot of people were shut in because of the weather that week. I don't know what happened. Look here. I know you've had a rough week.
You know what? Hang on. Before you get into my rough week, you used that same excuse when I outrated you as an announcer on the OBW TV show. The week that I was, you said, well, everybody was tuning in to see what happened at the Last Dance or whatever it was.
At Christmas Chaos, the biggest show.
You wouldn't admit that it was me that got the ratings. You had to blame it on something else.
That had to be canceled because of a snowstorm, and people were tuning in to see what was going to be rescheduled and when. And you be on that program. You realize that was
I just lucked into that one, didn't I?
Yes.
I figured that'd be your view on it.
Looky here, I know you've had a bad week because your hero died.
Oh my God! And I tried to call you for some consolement and some, you and I go. What year did I predict his death, Jimmy? Do you recall the year?
You started to predict the death of Ernest Borgnine in 1979.
Absolutely, my senior year in high school, I called you up because you and I used to play this game. We would predict deaths. I was surprisingly good at it. I mean, I had picked a lot in a row. A lot. You even accused me of having something to do with it on some occasions. And you got very upset with me when I predicted Ernie Borgnine's death because we both liked Ernie Borgnine, but I felt it was his time to go. And that was in 1979. And then every year.
To be fair, Ernest Borgnine has looked like he was old, decrepit, and near death since 1979. And when he was 60 years old, and because 35 years later, he died at the age of 95.
Well, I'm not so sure he didn't look like he was going to die in 1956.
Every year that he has lived, we have been surprised since 1979 that Ernie Borgnine is still alive. He was the last holdout.
Well, here's the sad thing, is I did predict his death every year from 1979 on, knowing the next year was going to be the year. And it wouldn't happen. Well, my son, who was not even thought of in 1979, got caught up in this. He wanted to know who Ernie Borgnine was, so he studied him, learned things about him, why his dad predicted his death. Why does Jimmy get upset every time Dad predicts his death? And he did some studying, and he made some contacts, and he found somebody in Chicago that was an agent to Ernie Borgnine. And I want you to know, Jimmy, that just next week, I was to have dinner with Ernie Borgnine in Chicago. Absolutely. I was an invited guest at Ernie Borgnine's home, one of his homes. He's got one in Chicago. And I was going to have dinner with Ernie Borgnine, and he had made arrangements because I was convinced he was going to outlive me. And I didn't want to burden you to speak at my funeral just in case I do die before you. And Ernie Borgnine, on a verbal agreement with my son, had agreed to speak and give the eulogy at my funeral. That's the God's honest truth. I would not lie about that.
None of that is true.
Yes, you don't know that. You don't know the conversations my son had. You don't know what Chris had to say to Ernie Borgnine. He called him.
I can't prove. Oh, jeez.
My son would not lie to me about that. Now, I didn't hear it, but that's what my son told me. And as you know, the prince don't lie. And yes, dinner with Ernie Borgnine next week, and the son of a bitch dies before. I didn't mean to call him a son of a bitch. I thought higher of him than that. But we were going to have dinner next week, and he kicks the bucket before I can actually break bread with him.
Well, and
sad to me.
Yeah, he's the lucky one.
And I called you to talk about it, and you were nowhere to be found. You were probably at a flea market and for sale somewhere or something. I don't know where the hell you were.
Me a voicemail crying about Ernie Borgnine, but then the very next day you changed your tune. You called me again.
I got over it.
Voicemail. See, here's the pattern. You leave me voicemails, and I don't call you back. You still don't get the picture, but. Very next day, your dear friend Ernie Borgnine had died, and the very next day you call me up and you're elated. You're happy because of your good fortune. The Beats by Bolin industry moved up another notch at your weekly appearance at Golden Corral last week.
Holy mackerel. I don't know where we were last time, Jimmy, that I talked to you about where the Beats with Bolin sales are, and I'll attribute some of it to this show because not only are my fans buying them up left and right, your fans are too. And hell, even occasionally I'll get a request for a Cornette face headphone. Some even want my logo on one side and yours on the other. Trying to patch me and you up. Trying to put us together, I think is what the people do.
Ebony and Ivory live together in perfect harmony. Is it true or is it not true that you somehow, because of the timely arrival of a sports team from Indianapolis on a bus at Golden Corral that you managed to sell about $1,000 worth of those headphones in one.
It was actually the exact number. We finally got the exact figures in. It was like exactly $1,080. I was sitting comfortably on about $370 in sales, which, let's face it, there's a lot of people that work hard every day, and I think $370 in a day for selling not a day, but 45 minutes for selling headphones ain't a bad effort.
Well, you have a free meal at Golden Corral, right? Alice has mentioned to you some things about Golden Corral. We tweeted out some information.
Yeah, and I've answered those. Wow. That is not my Golden Corral that y'all have sent me those pictures of. That story's over a year old.
Garbage stacked head high and
you can't
laying everywhere on the floor.
It's like labeling all stupid white people against all white people. My Golden Corral does not compare to that Golden Corral, and you can't compare mine to that one. Just because you don't.
Now, the way you put it, though, Kenny, is that you said that your Golden Corral looks this way rarely. Which implies that sometimes.
Well, when they get hit with 3 or 4 buses, and that's where we're going to with the story here, is that sometimes buses hit, things get out of hand. They're not prepared. They don't have enough help, and things get out of hand. I mean, if you've got.
And it's every man for himself. It's a frenzy.
Absolutely, and that sports bus showed up there, and I was sitting, like I said, comfortably on about $370 worth of sales, and I want you to know that coach come up and he admired my headphones so much, and he had like 40 kids on that bus, and I don't know what the other 12 kids have done to get heat with him or not, but he bought 28 of those kids a set of Beats by Bolin headphones. I did give them a slight discount because they bought so many. They did buy some microphone cables to upgrade to the nice little where you can talk on the phone with your headphones and everything. But
I wish you were wearing some now. You sound like you're in the goddamn well somewhere.
I'm on a $100 LifeCam microphone here, son. I don't know what the hell you're talking on. Maybe it's your recording equipment. Maybe it's your productionist. I got a good productionist.
Oh, now it's Alice's fault.
Well, it could be. She's the one in charge of this thing. My productionist doesn't have these problems.
Your
productionist?
Yeah, I got my productionist in England. Harry Barnett. You know Harry Barnett. He was on the show.
I remember Harry Barnett and Harry Paul.
Yeah, and Jimmy is. I swear to God, man, it was just like the ghost of Ernie Borgnine was looking down on me because I was 5 minutes away from leaving. I was packed and ready to go, and then my personal waiter come back in who had been cut.
Your personal waiter.
Well, yeah, he's the one that takes care of me over there. He waves me in ahead of the line, so I don't have to sit out there with a tripe and I have to wait to get in line. They wave me on through. You know, hell, they're lined up to the parking lot, and I got a table. So he had been let go.
You got one of those velvet rope situations going on at Golden Corral.
Absolutely, and it is velvet ropes. That's fun. You've been there, I take it, because it is actually a velvet rope that they wave me through.
I think that's actually some of the leftover spaghetti from Italian night, but nevertheless.
No, it's not. So he come back in and told me that this busload of kids was out there. I said, hold on, guys. I said, I know y'all drove. I know y'all picked me up and brought me here, but we're waiting 30 more minutes because there could be 3 or 4 of these kids want to set up.
Oh, that's right. You couldn't be bothered to drive 5 miles from your house to get the free food and run. You had people carry you over there.
I was doing them a personal favor. They bought $100 worth of my merchandise at my home. They come over to watch the Cincinnati Reds game with me. 3 of his kids had never been to Golden Corral ever in their life. I said, if you buy my merchandise, I'll buy your dinner. Well, sort of. I trade for it.
You didn't buy the dinner? All right, anyway.
I traded.
Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? The bus pulled up. The bus pulled up,
and the coach, someone told the kids about all the headphones I had. They come back there. It looked like a flea market frenzy. You should know something about that. And they're grabbing headphones and just throwing them left and right. The coach first bought 10, then he bought 3 more for 13. He come back, bought 3 more for 16. And before I know it was said and done, and all the adults and kids had headphones, it was 28 total headphones on top of what I'd already sold in there. A new record at Golden Corral, $1,080 in cash. That's all going right back in for the kids. I put it right back into the Bolan Foundation. We order more headphones and we take care of more kids. Everything goes right back into the business.
I'm sure it does.
It does.
Positive it does about that.
I love the kids, man. I took 3 kids to Golden Corral that had never eaten there before. They got to eat all they wanted. They had unlimited steak. Jimmy, have you ever had unlimited steak?
And hopefully enough counseling, and they'll be able to forget it. Alice has a couple of. Would you just participate in this program now? If I'm going to be nice to you, today here. Alice has
I'm here on a peace mission. Whatever y'all want, man. Y'all just tell me.
Yeah, well, Alice has some questions.
This ain't going to be that confrontational crap we've had before. We're past that.
That's why I'm letting Alice ask you the question. She's got questions, I say, from the cult followers who listen to the program, who sent in questions to have you answer for some reason.
Well, I'll be happy to do that, but now that Borgnine's gone, Alice, I don't need to say it for.
Are you now wishing for my death, Kenny? Am I next on the list?
I didn't say I was wishing for it, but I do have predictions to make.
Well, it took you 35 years to kill Ernie, and he looked bad to begin with, so I think Alice is safe.
So I will make it to August. I'll make it to my 36th birthday.
Well, you got to do that because you got to do the Charlotte show. You know, we're booked.
Well, it's August 22nd. So
wait a minute. I'm a part of the show. Am I booked in Charlotte? Am I there?
No, you're not. Alice asked the first question.
All right. The first question is from Josh in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it's directed at Jim, of course. Hello, Mr. Cornette. Big fan of you and your podcast. Oh. My question is about your good friend, Kenny Starmaker Bolan. Yeah. I've only seen a couple clips of him working as a manager in OVW. He seems like a guy who can get instant heat. So why was he never called up to WCW or WWE in the early or mid 90s? I want to know, while you were there any talks of bringing him up? Who do you think he would have been good to manage? I'd rather hear your answer to this question first because I want the truth. And to be honest, I can't believe a thing that comes out of Bolan's mouth, but he is entertaining as hell. Anyway, thanks for your enjoyable podcast. Keep up the good work.
Well, I'm anxious to see what you had to say, Jimmy.
Actually, there was no thought given to bringing old Kenny Starmaker Bolan up in the early to mid 90s because he had not yet managed to switch his career from cheating innocent people out of money in the kitchenware industry or the mortgage industry to the wrestling industry. He had not yet. He was only dabbling in wrestling while he made his main fortune cheating people out of money in other areas.
You're walking a fine line there, Jimmy. Remember the letter.
Well, no, I said I was supposed to be nice to you, but I can't change it. I can't lie. I've never been told to. So, I didn't really just lie in that statement.
Oh yeah.
But I'm trying to walk the tightrope here. But but then Starmaker has had a unique relationship with the city of Louisville, Kentucky, where he has insinuated himself into the very fiber of this city's being to the point where he's kind of like Governor Huey P. Kingfish Long in Louisiana. It serves his purposes better to remain here and sap the energy from those around him than to travel across the country and spread himself too disgustingly thin.
That seems to me that would you have that same conversation with Jerry Lawler, who rarely ever left Memphis, Tennessee? Why? He didn't have to. All the big stars wanted to come and get the rub from Jerry Lawler. What do you think I was at OVW? Why do you think OVW has so much trouble now? The rub is not there anymore. There's nobody to come and feud with.
There's nobody rubbing.
There's nobody there to come and team with. And you tell a lie. Jim Ross pulled me aside one day. And he says, Kenny, you would be the biggest star on Monday Night Raw if only it would not cause me so much trouble in the office. And I said, well, how's that, Jim? He says, well, do you realize all the managers up there that we have put out of work? And to bring you in, Jimmy Cornette, no job. Paul Ellering, no job. Jimmy Hart, no job. Downtown Bruno, no job. Bobby Heenan, no job. Captain Lou Albano. He started pointing all these guys out to me. He says, look at all the legends of the business.
Sounds like you, no job.
Even though I know that you're better than they are and that you would be better on Raw than all those guys combined, I can't do it, Kenny. He says, you're better off here in Louisville. I said, you know what, Jim, you're probably right. I'm a legend and an icon here. I will not cause you any trouble and take that contract that I think you're trying to offer me. I think he wanted to offer me a contract and just get all you guys pissed off.
All right.
I think that's really what he wanted me to do. But to be your friend, I did not accept the contract that I thought he was going to offer to remain your friend.
If JR is listening, I apologize for having your name brought into this, Jim, but
well, I think
let's move on to our next question. Shall we?
Yes.
This one is from Ian Jenkins. He says, hello, Jim and Alice. I'm asking you to hold this question until such a time comes because I know at some point that your show will be graced by the presence of / be invaded by Kenny Starmaker Bolan. So hello to you too, Mr. Bolan.
Sounded like a back.
The reason I'm asking
All right.
The reason I'm asking,
editorial comments.
All right.
The reason I'm asking is because this involves both Jim and Kenny, and it wouldn't be fair to have just one side of the story, or at least it'd be fucking hilarious to hear someone try and back out of the truth. I hear tell that there was an altercation between Jimmy and Kenny, cute, at Jimmy's wedding to Stacy, and I don't know if it's true or not. Would you care to comment?
Well, Jim, as you like to do, go ahead and go first, and then I'll tell the truth.
There was an altercation when Mr. Bolin. See, Star Maker also does not drink. He does not imbibe except for eggnog at the holidays.
Teetotaler, some occasional nog. Truthful,
but the problem, basically, what happened was Mr. Bolin was neglected in terms of his invitation. We neglected. I think that's when he had changed his address recently. He didn't get an invitation. Found out where the place was anyway. Burst in, demanded to be the best man. When I acquiesced to have him be the best man, then insisted on remaining seated during the service because, after all, his hip was hurting. And then, basically, in the process of hugging the bride, tried to molest her with his tongue, and was escorted off the premises.
I have never heard a bigger freaking lie in my life. That is not what. Number one, I did try to stand for the better part of 10 minutes. That damn ceremony kept going on so long. Every other wedding that I'd been your best man at, which I think was 5, these things were over in a matter of seconds. And then this thing kept going on until the break of dawn. I thought Rapper's Delight was going to break out, and I couldn't stand anymore. Fortunately, some good people were there to shove a chair under me, knowing of my bad hip, and I had a seat. And when it come time to kiss the bride, I'm going, oh God, I know Stacy's got a thing for me. This thing could turn ugly.
Let's Pete's sake.
Let's hope for the best. She's been, the truth be known, and this is going to hurt your feelings a little bit. She's been trying to get in my pants since about 3 days before she met you.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
That's the God's honest truth. She's had a thing for me, and I think you knew it. And it basically was setting me up for disaster. So, yeah, I go up there to kiss the bride, and she stuck her tongue down my throat. That's the God's honest truth.
Well,
I told you that there as your security was escorting me off the place.
To you, but you're stretching it now. You're stretching it. I'm supposed to be nice to you for little Walter.
She's the one that stretched it, if you know what I'm talking about.
All right.
Oh, Stacy.
I feel as though my question has made it worse.
I didn't know she was that big a fan of hockey, to be honest with you, but she's pretty good at it.
Let's get back to viewer mail. And by the way, Dean wrote in, and I won't read the whole thing, but he mentioned
Dean Hill?
No, not Dean Hill. He heard the last program where you talked about your support of Georgia Governor Nathan Deal and the gun laws down there, and he calls you a jackbooted pumpkin head. That's from Dean. I didn't say that.
What? What kind of fucking insult is that? Repeat that. What did he call me?
Jackbooted pumpkin head. I like it myself.
I don't even know how to respond to that. What the fuck is that?
Look at here. Here's another question from Adam. Who is regarding CM Punk. He tells me most people, including yourself, have backed Punk in his decision to leave. However, I've heard you refer to Shawn Michaels back in the 90s taking his tights and going home when he didn't get his way. So my question is, how is Punk's situation any different? He's only sulking because he missed out on the WrestleMania main event to The Rock. That is not necessarily true. As a matter of fact, that's not true. Not just not necessarily, but not true. I don't get why everyone defends Punk in this situation. Here's the difference, in my opinion, are several. Number one, CM Punk was not refusing to drop a belt, come back and drop a belt and finish up. He just said, I'm going home. Shawn Michaels lost his smile, but never lost his belt. Secondly, Shawn Michaels at that time had a track record of behavior where he was miserable to deal with in the office, whether he was impaired, whether he was making out of the ring headlines and fights with Marines and various things, or whether people were jacking him up and slapping him around in the locker room at the same time. So it was a pattern of things where I do not think that Punk has anything on his record approaching that unprofessional. And finally, and then we'll throw this open to Star Maker. I'm interested in your response. The thing is with Punk, we don't know. We know what all the conversations and all the whining was about with Sean from years ago, 15 years ago. We don't know what the conversations were back and forth between the office and Punk. We don't know what he was promised versus what he got. We don't know how much injuries and general mental burnout played in it. And if he wasn't going to main event WrestleMania and he'd done everything else and he was only sticking around to do something that he had not done before, and nobody was making him any happier, which I assume he expressed displeasure to them before he just went home, I think it's a lot different. What about you, Star Maker?
What?
Oh, for God's sake. What do you think? What's the difference between Punk and Michael?
Punk now has short hair. Michael still has long.
Did you go to sleep while I was making that answer?
I think a lot of people went to sleep while you were making that.
For heaven.
So don't label me into that.
You went to sleep one time doing commentary on OVW television at the announce desk next to Dean Hill while a match was going on, 20 feet in front of you.
I did. And then I told the locker room, who wanted an apology, I said, if you quit wrestling shit matches, I'll stay fucking awake. And then it didn't solve the problem, but at least they knew that if I didn't get quality entertainment, I was taking a nap. And that's, to be honest with you, Jimmy, that's what happened here. I wasn't being entertained.
Hey, let's move on to the next email. And this, I mentioned it, but I went back and found it. Alice, you remember a week or two we were talking about, I got that email from a PhD, an associate professor of sociology at the University of North Carolina.
I do recall, yes.
Oh, before you go any further, the new powder blue Beats by Bolins are in, and I do now have the North Carolina Tar Heel Edition headphones. Those are going to be available on Facebook as of today.
I'm glad we got that.
So let that professor know I've got these. You'll probably want a set.
Anyway, the doctor writes on the Jim Cornette Experience a few weeks ago, whilst discussing West Virginia and the eastern coalfields of Kentucky, you, meaning me, made the comment that some of the people should get an education and get out of the hollow, implying, I believe, and I did say that, but actually I said better in framing it, easier said than done, Alice. But
well, let me correct you. Get out of the holler. If you're going to say it right. Get out of the holler.
He wrote it this way. But anyway, implying, I believe, that a community with an education would fix the problems that are often experienced in these parts of West Virginia and Kentucky. I'd like to say you're not wrong in that assertion. However, this is only part of the problem. Those that do get an education do leave the hollow. They leave their communities and they don't look back. This is mostly due to the lack of jobs to provide a living wage. These are the very people that could help to affect change in these communities, but are absent to do so. The mass exodus of the educated leave behind the uneducated who are unable or unwilling to attempt to change their communities for the better. And what's worse is that those educated do eventually return and try to affect change, are often shunned because of their education. They're seen as having raised themselves above the rest of the community. And Jason says he's been researching the region for 5 years now, and fixing the problems there is more complex than just getting an education, unfortunately. And I thought that was a very pithy email. Did you not, Alice?
That was actually really interesting, and it is kind of a complex problem. One of my favorite documentaries is a documentary called American Hollow. I don't know how many people have seen it. It was on HBO many, many years ago. And it was about the life of, I think... Oh, okay. It was spelled hello, and it was made by actually one of the Kennedys, Rory Kennedy, who was sort of famous for being the lady who was having the wedding that John was heading to when he crashed his plane.
Yes. And actually I've seen some of her other work also in the documentary field.
She makes some pretty beautiful stuff, and this was, there was no real commentary. She was just sort of showing this family as they live. And it was really pretty fascinating. There were younger members of this family who wanted to get out, who were sort of chided by older members of the family, saying it was just a pipe dream and that they couldn't. You know, even if you want to go off to school, why are you bothering? You're not going to make anything of yourself. You'll never be able to get out. We couldn't get out, so you can't get out. And I think there's so many factors.
And then that also brings up the idea, okay, we understand that President Obama is never going to be popular in West Virginia and Eastern Kentucky, and the coal industry is what supports everybody. But for the sake of that part of the country, do we destroy the goddamn atmosphere for everybody else just because it's going to put those people out of jobs when eventually we're going to run out of coal anyway? What do you think, Star Maker? What's your opinion on climate change, global warming, the coal industry, and et cetera, et cetera?
Well, number one, I don't think there is any such thing as climate change. Jesus H. Christ, climate change. The temperatures have gone up, what, a fucking degree over the past 250 billion years. Jesus goddamn Christ. There's always been glaciers. There's always going to be fucking glaciers. The shit ain't never going to change. We're boiling ourselves. We cannot destroy this planet. We've tried. We can't do it. And they think because of a little bit of fucking aerosol sprays going in the air that we're shutting down the worst atmosphere. Fuck you. You're out of your goddamn minds. Anybody who believes that. We cannot damage this planet. We've tried. We can't do it.
But
enough of that.
I noticed you didn't mention anything about the poor, at least the jobless people in that are thrown into poverty by the dying of the coal industry. Why don't you go?
No, that's exactly where I'm going.
Something for them.
Now you said we're going to run out of coal. I think that's bullshit too. Apparently we're never going to run out of coal. We've always had coal. There's still lots of coal. I was having kingfish on the river the other day. Barges and barges of fucking coal. I see trucks go by and these big trains. Coal. There's coal every fucking where. We're never going to run out of coal. So quit painting that picture. And then when you're talking about these type people, these hillbillies, these shiftless bums, these food stamp recipients, these losers, these non-workers, you're talking about them wanting to hold everybody down. We don't want anybody to get out ahead of us. We don't want anybody to leave the pack. Of course they don't, because they're used to just pounding that mentality into each other. Some people escape that, Jimmy. As you know, I was not raised a rich young man. I didn't have the silver spoon in my mouth you were raised with. I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and elevate myself above where I was brought up from. And I'm going to tell you that this can be done. As you know, Jimmy, I've always found a way to make money. And I've always created a way to create a dime, a dollar. I've never had an empty wallet. If there's something I wanted that cost $25, I could always buy it. If there's something I wanted that was $1,000, I knew within a week or two I'd have the money to get it. And as a matter of fact, that reminds me of a dear friend of mine who lives here in Louisville. No education. He doesn't have any fancy schooling. He didn't have any fancy upbringing. But I want you to know he's found a way to live practically like a king. And listen to what he's done. And anybody can do this. You don't have to have a tiny one-bedroom apartment. You don't have to be in the mortgage industry. You don't have to flip homes. This can work for everybody. And I'm going to solve world poverty right here today if you'll just fucking listen to me.
Oh, this ought to be good.
What this young man does is that he goes on Amazon.com, and what he's done, he has found some popular electronic items. I'm not going to specify what, because as to the 100% legality of this, I'm not sure, and I don't want to do anything to rattle any cages or ruffle any feathers. But I think he's within his legal rights, just like me with the Kroger meat thing.
Yeah.
Well, look how long Kroger's been. No one arrested me there, so apparently I was within my rights. So here's what.
Is this you doing this, or is this your friend?
No, this is my friend. My friend does it, and I'm not going to drop his name because, like I said, I don't. Just like with Kroger, I would have preferred you not brought that up 20 years ago, but you did, trying to cause me trouble, and it didn't work for you. But what he's done, he's found this popular electronic item, and he found it on Amazon.com. And I want you to know that he gets a damn good buy on it. Well, here's where he's outthinking everybody. He would buy these discounted electronic items, have them delivered to his home. Many times they come in factory-sealed boxes, which is amazing. Sometimes not. Doesn't matter. Because what he would do, he would go and let's say the retailer is something like a Target or something like a Kmart, something like that. With a bit of a liberal return policy. And what he would do is he would take this particular electronic item. He would go into said, say, Target, Kmart, something like that, and he would go in, and it doesn't matter if you got a receipt or not. Hey, this thing's defective. I need it replaced. And then he would get the replacement, and then now he's got a brand new item. And what he would do is return that brand new item after he didn't open it, take that to another said Kmart, Target, what have you, and they won't give you cash, but they give you something damn near as good, a gift certificate. And this electronic item I'm talking about runs $250. $250 brand new. He's buying them for like $25. And he's turning that $25 into $250. He gets a gift card. He doesn't need money. He can buy anything he wants. He can get food. He can get diapers. He can get milk. He can get gasoline.
All right.
Get coal.
Settle down. You're gonna have some kind of goddamn amorous.
But what I've done, Jimmy, is I've solved world poverty. If this dumbass can do this, and he is, I'm not going to drop his name and where he lives and all that.
Wait a minute.
But he has no education.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
Your friend is buying something off the internet, and he is taking it back to a store where he's returning it, exchanging it for another of the same thing, so that then he's got a receipt. So then he can exchange it at another store, so that then he can get credit for the full retail price rather than what he bought it for on the internet.
There you go. Now you're big in investments, because I hear you crying all the time every time stock market. Oh, Kitty, I lost $500,000 today. I lost this. I lost that. I hear it all the time. And do you think he's losing anybody? What did he do? Do you have any investments to where you're getting $250 on a $25 investment?
Well, now, but
no,
once
you don't.
again, you can't compare this to people going out and trying to find a job and make a living in this day and age, in this environment, in this.
That is your job, Jimmy. That is your job. Your job is to get on a $19 a month internet program, surf the internet, find these products, return them, get the full refund on a gift card.
Wait a minute. Since when is grifting a job?
You don't need money. You can buy anything but a prostitute with them.
Well, there's the rub too. But you're one.
I'm sure there are some prostitutes you can buy with a Kmart gift card. I just have a feeling.
I bet a $500 gift card would get a nice night with you. Now that you mention it.
Oh, now stop it! But now, just wait a minute. For one thing.
And I just celebrated my 15th wedding anniversary.
Who were you registered?
Shame on you. Shame on you if you're taking $500 gift cards for sex on your 15th wedding anniversary. Shame on you.
Can we bring this back to what I was about to say? That Kenny Bolin,
sure,
wanted to talk about all this when your brother Biscuits and Gravy, your brother Bud.
Careful! Don't label me or Biscuits and Gravy in this. It's my friend that did it, not me or Biscuits.
I'm just saying you're one to talk about anything when your brother is unemployed. Just a couple of years ago, he was bragging he had $100,000 in cash in the bank and his house was paid for. And now he has.
Let me make that quote for you. I got more than that. That's what he said when I asked him how much money he had. I said, "You got about $100,000 in the bank, don't you?" I got more than that, man. Well, he did.
Now he's living in a shack on stilts because he won't get a job either, just like you.
No, he ain't just like me. How much money did you say I made at Golden Corral in about an hour and a half? How much did you say I made?
Well, he's doing it. What has he got? He's got a button business.
How much did you make in you fucking millionaire? How much did you make in an hour and a half this weekend? Don't say I ain't got a job. I got a job. It's selling Beats by Bolin headphones. It's selling my DVD line. It's selling all the matches where I beat John Cena and all those guys. I got a job. It's called Selling Kenny Bolin.
I'm just saying,
I have a job.
Your brother is penniless and destitute, and if you were such a financial guru,
well, he has it. Now let's not badmouth him too bad. No, he's not that smart. No, he's not that bright. When they were passing out brains, he thought they said trains, and they gave him the caboose. So let's not bash him too damn hard. But he's trying to make a bit of a living. He's in the button business. Didn't I tell you about it? He's in the button business now. He sells buttons.
I know. That's what you told me, that he was the last I heard. I just said that plainly and concisely. He's in the
I didn't hear you.
Business. The button business is last you told me about him. He's selling buttons for like $1.
Well, the problem is, though, here, I've got the headphone thing, and I do make a bit of a profit on each headphone I sell. Not a lot, but enough to get by. But poor old Biscuits, he's making these buttons for about 30 or 35 cents, and the thing I do disagree with, he steals the images off the internet. That's video piracy.
Oh,
he doesn't have copyrights to do that with, and then that part kind of irks me a little bit. He actually goes out and sells buttons of Pete Rose, Daniel Boone, and John Wayne. I mean, come on. He doesn't own the rights to them.
Wait a minute. How many people are going to buy buttons of Pete Rose, John Wayne, and who?
Daniel Boone.
And Daniel Boone. Is it the
have you ever been to
real Daniel?
Have you ever?
No, answer
the real Daniel.
Is it the real
Fess
Daniel
Parker.
Boone?
People don't know what the real Daniel Boone looks like. You give them Fess Parker and tell them it's Daniel Boone. They think he is the real one.
I'm surprised he's not selling authentic photographs of Daniel Boone.
He does. Remember, he's got that framing business too. He's got those frames. He got a van load of frames from a lady, and she charged him $1 a frame. I think he got like 2,000 frames. And what he does is that he gets pictures off the internet and frames them and sells them for $5 and calls them originals.
And
I guess technically, I guess they are.
Those original photographs of Daniel Boone that are floating around.
Oh yeah,
Well,
you see those at the finest stores here in Los Angeles.
Do you have any autographed pictures of Daniel Boone, by the way, for sale?
Jimmy John thinks that Bess Parker was the real Daniel Boone. He doesn't know any better.
Look, you know what?
Same guy.
You had just your brother, yourself, you have done nothing to add to this program today. I brought you back on here against my better judgment for little Walter.
Whoa, I solved world poverty, for crying out loud. Don't you say I've done nothing.
Solve anything. None of your advice is even remotely advisable for any sane person to want to undergo and undertake.
There's people out there that will disagree with you, but go ahead.
Completely disrailed the whole program today. All you do is crow about your beats and how much money you made at Golden Corral while you're poisoning yourself over there with that food.
That's only Golden Corral. We're doing good online too.
And you're basically you try to knock people who are unemployed as being lazy, but all you've done for the last 30 years of your life is figure out a way not to lift a finger. It's ridiculous. I'm tired of being nice to you today.
Well, I think you need to be calming your ass down, because little Walter Cotton laying up there in the goddamn hospital at Baptist East ain't going to take too fucking kindly to this. You said you'd be nice, and I'm going to press you to do that.
Hey, wait, hold on.
Back up your words.
Wait a minute.
You're pissing me off.
Hold on. What did you just say? What did you just say?
I said you're pissing me off. That's what I said. I said you're pissing me off.
You stop running your mouth. You've run your mouth too much. What you said before that, I never said what that little Walter's last name was, and I never said what hospital he was in. How did you know what little Walter's last name was and what hospital he was in? How would you know that information? Huh? No, seriously.
No.
Cotton, right?
I'm pretty sure I got, no, you said you got an email, right?
Right.
Did you get an email? I must have been carbon copied in it. You know what CC? There's a CC on your email. I bet you that's what I got carbon copied. I probably got the same email you got.
Oh, you
thought that stuff sounded familiar.
You shut up. I'm holding it right here in my hand right now on paper, and you're not carbon copied on it. You
sure?
put no good. Alice. He said Walter Cotton, right?
He did. I ran back the tape. He mentioned both the last name and the name of the hospital.
How fucking low can you possibly go to worm your way back onto this program and insinuate yourself like a weed, like a vine of poison ivy on the listeners and the followers?
Calm down, Jimmy. Calm down. Because little Walter's laying up there in that hospital, and he's nubbless. He ain't got no arms or legs. He looks 3 times as old as I saw his picture. I know I got the email. I don't know why you don't have a CC. Maybe he just wrote me individually too. I don't know. But don't try to make something dirty or scheming out of this.
Here, little limbless.
People are going to think low of me if you talk like that.
Little limbless Walter is really little dickless Bolin. That's exactly who that is.
You got a lot of fucking nerve to say I got no dick.
No, you know what? I got the nerve.
You, sir, you qualify as a dick licker. You're not a cocksucker because you're not qualified. You ain't good at it. You're a dick licker. To call me such a thing, and I come out here to save your damn show, and I happen to get an email that you got, and you try to spin it into something nasty and ugly and dirty, fuck you.
How about Alice, can you hear me over this roar?
Indeed, I can.
We got the one ability that you don't have, Bolin. We can hang up on you.
Oh, yeah, what's that?
Alice is going to do right now. Alice, hang up on him.
You hang up on me, I'll never be your fucking show again.
And good day to him, I believe. Is he gone?
He's gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this week's edition of the Jim Cornette Experience forcing you to listen to the stylings of Star Maker Bolan under false pretenses of a little limbless boy, a victim of a farm machinery accident in Klamath Falls, Oregon. I can't believe that Bolan would stoop so low as to impersonate a little legless wonder like little Walter. I can't believe it.